Radio, 1110 KFAB.
Of America, the gateway to the West. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm George Noory. Welcome to Coast AM as we get the week rolling here. Lots going on. By the way, has Atlantis been found? The scientist says he thinks so. He may have found the remains of the lost city of Atlantis. Another hot stories under the coasttocoastam.com website. Satellite photos of southern Spain reveal features on the ground appearing to match descriptions made by Greek scholar Plato of the fabled Utopia. Dr. Rainier Kuhn thinks the island of Atlantis simply referred to a region of the southern Spanish coast destroyed by a flood between 800 and 500 B.C. Our research has been reported as an ongoing project on the online edition of the journal Antiquity. Now, satellite photos of a salt marsh region known as Marcima de Honojos near the city of Cadiz show that two rectangular structures in the mud and parts of the rings that may have once surrounded them. And Plato wrote about some of these rings. So the scientist believes that maybe he indeed found Atlantis. Go take a look, read the story. Thousands of mourners every hour filing past the late President Ronald Reagan's flag-draped coffin, now resting at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in the Simi Valley in California. Monday morning, a motorcade brought the casket 40 miles to the library from a funeral home in Santa Monica, beginning nearly a week of journey across America that will end with his return to California for a burial on a hilltop. The 40th President of the United States died Saturday at the age of 93 years old. The U.S. Security Council appears to have reached a compromise over the new U.S.-UK draft resolution on Iraq. It came after the U.S. finally agreed to include in the resolution that the U.S.-led forces would consult with the new Iraqi government on military operations. This was a key demand by France. An internet statement signed by Al-Qaeda, this is being tracked by Douglas Hagman and his Homeland Security U.S. Well, this cell in Saudi Arabia is warning that the terror network will target Western airlines, military bases, and residential compounds, and they've told all Muslims to stay away from Westerners. The warning of the attacks in the near future appeared on a website known for posting messages from militants, including the video in which the terror group Al-Qaeda had links with the executed Nicholas Berg, an American kidnapped in Iraq. You know that story. Sad story in Pennsylvania. A 40-foot pine tree fell in a state park, killing a 7-year-old Cub Scout and injuring his father and another boy while they slept in tents during a father-son weekend. The first grader was killed when the tree fell early Sunday. The accident, they say, was against all odds. The weather was calm. The tree apparently was diseased when it just fell. The planet Venus is the focus of major interest, especially tomorrow as it passes across the face of the sun as seen from Earth. The transit of Venus, as it's called, is an extremely rare occurrence which has not been witnessed now by any living individual. The last time it occurred was 1882. The event starts at about 6:20ish or so early in the morning, lasts for 6 hours, ending at about 12:24. Experts have warned the public about the dangers of looking at the star, the sun, and have urged observers to use a very safe method, such as a pinhole projection. You used to do that when you were a kid. Remember that? Well, in 1936, Edward Leeds Scarman was starting to build Coral Castle in Florida. 68 years later, Richard C. Hoagland has gone to Coral Castle in Florida. Richard is there now. We'll be back with him in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.
Millions of people who've never even set foot in a casino take a dangerous gamble every day, living without health insurance. You just can't afford not to have it. But affordable health insurance can be hard to find, particularly if you're a hard-working entrepreneur or if you're working for a company that doesn't offer benefits. Fortunately, the Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee has a solution with their dependable, affordable health insurance plans. Call today at 1-800-413-9400. More than likely, they have a plan that fits your individual needs perfectly at a price you can afford. After all, if you can't pay the premium, all the insurance in the world is useless. So call 1-800-413-9400. Don't gamble. Go to Midwest. Their home office is located in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That toll-free number again is 1-800-413-9400. This coverage is not available in all states. Call today, 1-800-413-9400.
Every dad's motto is, I'll wait in the car. Grocery stores, malls, your wedding. For some reason, they love waiting in the car. So get them Sirius Satellite Radio this Father's Day. It's got 110 channels, including commercial-free music, news, talk sports, and the entire NFL.
Get Sirius Satellite Radio for just $9.99 a month. Offer based on prepaid one-year subscription and available for a limited time at participating retailers. Hardware sold separately. Terms, conditions, and activation fee apply. Visit Best Buy, Circuit City, Crestfield.com, or Sirius.com for details.
With Sirius, now Dad will have some company in the car.
You've reached the Rogers. Leave a message at the beep. Mom, Dad, I keep leaving messages. Hey, I really need that money for tuition. I know you're home. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone.
At Next Student, you can take advantage of record low interest rates through a variety of parent loan programs, which you qualify for regardless of income or assets. For the most affordable ways to pay for your child's college education, call 1-800-978-NEXT or go online at nextstudent.com. Next Student, college funding made simple.
Richard C. Hoagland is a former Space Science Museum curator, former NASA consultant during the historic Apollo missions to the Moon, science advisor to Walter Cronkite at CBS News. Richard has been leading an outside scientific team and a critically acclaimed independent analysis of possibly intelligently designed artifacts on Mars. Now, in the last several years, he and his team's investigations have been extended to include over 30 years of previously hidden data from NASA, Soviet, and Pentagon missions to the Moon. Now, Richard C. is in Florida, near Coral Castle, and he's with us this hour. Richard, how are you?
If I was any nearer to Coral Castle, George, I'd be in Coral Castle. I'm literally sitting on the southern side within about 50 feet of the south turret that Lee Scowlin built from the 1920s to the 1940s, single-handedly. To this day, no one really knows how he did it. One 5-foot guy, 90 pounds, no major equipment, no help, no crew, no cranes, no nothing. And I'm sitting in front of 1,100 tons of coral limestone that is making the experiment tonight that we're here to conduct go absolutely crazy.
Why have you picked tonight as it is so close to the Venus transit, Mr.
Well, it is the Venus transit. The times you read from AP are wrong. We just started the transit of Venus. Now, obviously, here in Florida, it's a little after 1:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the Sun and Venus are on the opposite sides of the Earth. I have a computer program I use often called Redshift, and we're able to actually, use this program and give ourselves a synthetic view of what the Europeans and the Africans and the Indians are seeing on the day side of the Earth, which is halfway around the planet right now.
Right.
For them, the transit started a few minutes ago. For us, it started at 1:08 our time. So as you were doing the lead-in to our discussion tonight, it literally started what's called first contact, when the edge of the sphere of Venus just kissed the edge of the much bigger sphere of the Sun, which is something like 100 million miles behind it.
Now, when will people in the United States be able to start seeing this?
Not until dawn. And the only way, obviously, you can see it is by looking at the sun at sunrise. Do not look at the sun without protection. You don't want to look with the naked eye. You don't want to use things like welder's glasses. You have to be very, very careful because you can lose your vision without even feeling any pain. There's no nerves in your eyes to tell you that you're going to go permanently blind. So do not stare at the sun unless you have appropriate optical assistance. Watch it on television, watch it on the internet. There's all kinds of cameras. If you've got, very dense polarized glasses or something like a density 35 or more ND filter, then that would be safe. But you've got to be super careful. Don't let your kids do it. This is as dangerous, if not more so, than total eclipses of the sun by the moon, because people obviously don't normally look at the sun, and during an event like this, they're going to want to. But you got to take very special precautions, otherwise you can be in permanent trouble. What we're doing is we're looking at it with a totally different kind of detector. What I have here, literally in Coral Castle, George, in the turret, which is the castle-like building, two-story building on the southern-western edge of this campus.
Right.
I have a vibrating tuning fork, vibrating at 360 cycles per second. And what I've got is I've got it hooked up to a very long 150-some foot of wire, and then into a computer program in the laptop that I have sitting out here in the patio outside the visitor center. And for the last several hours, we have been recording moment by moment by moment the transients in the tuning fork frequency as Venus approached the sun. And as I said, it just kissed it a couple of minutes ago.
Explain to us what this experiment means to you and to so many people, because there's just tremendous enthusiasm about this entire episode of this Venus transit.
Well, what got me started was I heard some statements that, the last transit took place 122 years ago when Venus crossed the sun as seen from the Earth, most of North America, in 1882. So we haven't had an event like this for anyone's living memory. Literally, there's no person we know that's alive on Earth now that saw the transit of Venus in 1882. There has been an extraordinary progress of science between then and now, and the statement was made many times in the last several months that, well, although this is a kind of an awesome event and once in a lifetime, actually it's twice in a lifetime, because the next one will occur as a double pair in December of 2012. An interesting coincidence, wouldn't you say, George?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Our favorite date between us. Yep. And our few million intimate friends. Anyway, they were saying there was no science to be done, and I said, wait a minute, that is wrong. Because in the hyperdimensional physics that I've been looking at, stemming from our work at Sidonia on Mars so many years ago, if this event is what we think it is in the hyperdimensional model, then all kinds of things should hit the fan as Venus, spinning backward every 243 days, crosses the disk of the sun geometrically, spinning forward once every 27 days. So I decided that I wanted to measure the possible inertial change of a tuning fork, the mass change of a tuning fork responding to the physics in a wave-like phenomenon. Then I had to decide where to do it. My first choice was to go to Giza, to Egypt. We'd be having this conversation with me in Egypt tonight if that was in the cards.
Right.
And I decided after talking with some people that are travel experts, they said, you do not want to go to Egypt in June now. It is too hot. Plus, it's a bigger plane flight and a slight amount more money than we had available for this expedition. So my second choice was Coral Castle, because Lee Skellman said many times that he used the same techniques to build this structure behind me that the ancient Egyptians used to build the pyramid itself. So I figured if I could find some measurable effects of the transit on the physics of Coral Castle, then we can extrapolate from what Lee Skellman said on the record that in fact they probably also obtained if we were to do this at Giza. And in the next 8 years, George, you and I will go to Giza and we'll do that one.
Now, if I hear that over the next several hours you are floating some of these stones down there at Coral Castle...
you will not believe that unless you get confirmation with photographs, right?
Absolutely.
However, we do appear to have solved one interesting mystery. This guy, there have been several people who have written some books on this guy. The one is your friend and mine, Joe Bullard, who wrote this interesting novel that I had a chance to read partially. I got interested, obviously, because I heard you interview him on the show a few months ago. He has some very interesting extrapolations based on sources that I'm not sure of yet. as to Lee Scowron's life, why he came here, why he picked, Homestead, Florida, this latitude, which is about 25 degrees, 30 minutes north latitude. We're sitting on this enormous bed of natural limestone, this oolitic limestone, this coral limestone, which extends, miles beneath us and hundreds of miles in all directions. I mean, this is an extraordinary bed into the planet of this particular material that I feel, because the pyramid was built out of it, was picked to resonate with the hyperdimensional physics that we're trying to measure. So this is the perfect place. Well, we've been measuring for the last few days, and up until last night we thought we were on track, and then we had, George, a total disaster.
What happened?
Because last night we were setting up the test to do the measurements and to get ready to do the show tonight, and this place, for some reason, literally blew up the sensor. It went off scale, it went asymptotic, it went through the roof, it vibrated itself to death, and we had a basic problem with less than 24 hours to solve it, which is how do I find another tuning fork sensor in the Miami area in time to get on with the show and get on with the experiment. That all got solved by mid-afternoon. We've been up and running since mid-afternoon. We've got extraordinary data. We've got one frame of data on the web. If you go to enterprisemission.com, you will see a picture of Coral Castle. If you click on that, it will take you to a full frame of the data we got earlier this evening. And we're getting, on a 360 hertz tuning fork, George, we were getting excursions of over 10 cycles per second in a weird harmonic sinusoidal irregular pattern. Up, down, down, up, down. And the normal background fluctuation of this tuning fork is 2/100ths of a cycle per second. So whatever this thing is doing, it's amplified the effects by over 1,000 times that we'd record if we were in New Mexico getting the baseline data I was getting a few weeks ago.
I was going to say, Richard, do you think you would get unusual readings at Coral Castle regardless of when you were down there, or do you think it's all tied into the Venus transit?
I think it's regardless of when we're down here, and I think we're going to be able to prove that because we're going to stay here for several more days, even most of the rest of the week. We're not going to leave until next Monday, a week from now. We're going to do readings every day at similar times and in various configurations. We're going to move around inside the castle, and in the second half of this hour, I'm going to take you on our cell phone on a little walking tour of what Ed did and try to paint a verbal picture of the extraordinary eighth wonder of the world that this guy created single-handedly, man of mystery, who had objectives and techniques that to this night are unknown, but I think we're closing in with some of the measurements.
Oh, that's going to be exciting. What do you hope to prove with the experiment? I mean, what would you be happy with?
Well, number one, that hyperdimensional physics is real. Because what we're looking at, if you go look at the graph, it's such a simple experiment, George. It's what's called a simple harmonic oscillator, where you have a little coil, and it gives an electromagnetic nudge to a tuning fork. The tuning fork goes ping at a natural frequency. I mean, we've all heard tuning forks, in music skill or music class.
Yeah.
The 440, the middle C or whatever. This is the same kind of physics. And there's nothing simpler in the universe. It operates according to Newton's, laws, F equals ma. Force equals mass times acceleration. So if the tuning fork is varying by extraordinary amounts, I mean 10 cycles in a 360 cycle system is an extraordinary large amount of variance. It's got to be due to one of two things. Either the force hitting the tuning fork is changing, or the mass of the tuning fork is changing. And we pretty much nail down, we're going to do some more work, we pretty much nail down that it's not the electromagnetic coils, the force, that's doing the pinging that's changed. It's the mass. It's the inertia of the fork itself. Now, why is that important? Because if you're talking about anti-gravity, if you're talking about levitation, if you're talking about making things lighter, then inertia is the way you would go. And I'm strongly of the effect, because we're seeing it on the graph, that the measurements that Lee Scowron, knew about, this came to him from some unknown source, we have literally duplicated tonight, and we are looking at changes in inertia, in changes in mass of real objects exposed to this place on this night as Venus begins its transit across the sun.
That's got to be exciting. How many people are out there right now, Richard? Lots?
A lot. I mean, this place normally closes down at like 8 o'clock around sunset, and there's lots of folks here who drop by. First of all, I want to thank Sylvia Vilfana, who's the manager, and her extraordinary staff, Laura and a bunch of other people who have been super to us. I mean, Alfredo, who's a security guard, guarded our equipment when we went to dinner tonight to make sure that, nobody came by. No men in black showed up and tried to do something. We've got a guy named Bruce Randall here, who's a cosmic cartographer, who's got some extraordinary math. In fact, he's got something so cool, I'm going to strongly recommend, George, you have him on as a guest when he gets some of his stuff published, because he has figured out some of the math behind this, and it connects back to Egypt, just as Lee Scaldon says, and it connects to other sacred sites around the world, and you will have a fascinating conversation with him. And I'm sitting right next to another guy here who turns out to be an experimenter, a devotee of my old friend Bruce De Palma. He actually built an end machine. His name is Ross Patrick, and in the second half I'll put him on and you can ask him a few questions, because he actually knows some little details about the place that I don't know, and I just thought you might like to get a feel for who these people are and why they're here tonight and why they're as excited as I am about what we're finding out.
This is one of the greatest mysteries, not only in the country, but on this planet, with this person. I mean, he was born in 1887 in Latvia. He was in love with someone named Agnes. Something happened there, and he never got married to her. And, his life was topsy-turvy, but he was able to do this. And what you brought out about the limestone and the resonance, and also the fact that I think he believed that there were various points on this planet, that when they intersected, you would be able to do exactly what he probably did, and that's levitate these objects, and they're all over the place. Boy, if we could find them all.
He built the original version of this at a place about 10 miles away called Florida City.
Yes, and he moved it.
And then later, I forget how many years later, was it 10, 15 years later?
About 10 years later, he moved them. Apparently he was attacked and beaten up, and he didn't want anything to do with that area anymore.
Well, but that's not why he moved it, all right? That is not why. He moved it because it was in the wrong place, George. And how do I know that? Because I've been measuring from our hotel, which is located north of here, all the way down in the car this afternoon. We used the sensor to kind of, as we approached the castle, interesting things began to happen, more and more interesting changes in the tuning fork frequency, in the rate of the rate of change and stuff like that. So there's something about this latitude at 2530 north. Now that's what we call the geographic latitude. The real latitude we want to go and find out is something called the geodetic latitude.
All right, well, hold that thought, Richard. Hold that thought. Okay. We're going to take this break, and we'll be right back with you on Coast to Coast. Richard C. Hoagland live at the Coral Castle. I'm George Noory. Back in a moment.
Would you pay 15 cents to hear this show in its entirety? That's the daily charge for Streamlink. Sign up at www.coasttocoastam.com.
News Radio 1110 KFAB.
President Ronald Reagan.
America is back, standing tall, looking to the 80s with courage, confidence, and hope.
News Radio 1110 KFAB.
Away.
our guest, Douglas Mulhall. Douglas will talk with us about nanotechnology. He's a nanotechnology journalist. And he can talk about how our ability to survive in the face of what he believes could be future violent climate changes with nanotechnology. By the way, it looks like our little mind experiment to push Smarty Jones to the top of the Belmont Saturday didn't work. He came in second place to Birdsong, a long shot. God, he just ran a little too short. We're going to have to fine-tune the old experiment, I'll tell you that. June 18th, that is the final day where the free CD of the late Father Malachi Martin talking about exorcisms will be available when you order the After Dark newsletter. So that is the date. Here are a couple ways to order the After Dark newsletter and get the free CD. One is toll-free, 1-888-727-5505. It's 1-888-727-5505. The other way is coast-to-coast-am.com. When we come right back, Richard C. Hoagland is down at the Coral Castle in Florida, and he will take us on a live tour via radio of the Coral Castle. Don't go away. How many constellations can you spot and name? The Big Dipper, Orion, Ursa Minor. Wouldn't you love to recognize so many more? Of course you would. For a limited time, you can get a remarkably affordable, high-quality Orion Transporter Telescope along with a Star Pocket Starfinder at one special price. Now, the Star Pocket helps you easily locate more than 40 stars and 70 constellations. You don't have to search all over the heavens. All you have to do is use your Star Pocket there. And once you know where they are, the Orion has the high-quality optics you need to take the heavens down to Earth. The lenses are sharp, crystal clear, comes with a very rugged carrying case and a tabletop tripod so that you can take the Orion anywhere you want and enjoy the beautiful night sky. Take advantage of this special offer and get the Orion Transporter Telescope and the Star Pocket together for a limited time at only $209.95. Call the C. Crane Company. Phones open up at 6:30 in the morning Pacific time at 800-522-8863. That number again for the Orion Transporter Telescope, and that's free. C. Crane catalog as well, 800-522-8863. You can also go to the web at ccradio.com and find out that the C. Crane Company discovered something new today. More than 30 million men suffer from an enlarged prostate. A lot of people. If you happen to make frequent trips to the restroom, that could be a sign that you have a problem. Super Prostate Formula is for you, designed by nationally recognized physician Dr. Michael Tepliski. Super Prostate Formula combines nutrients that support the health of your prostate so that you can reclaim control. I've used it for a couple of years now. Great results. Join the legions of listeners who have had incredible results as well. This works, and when you order 2 bottles of Dr. Tepliski's Super Prostate Formula, you'll also get 2 bottles of his Super Libido Formula, which is a natural alternative to support your own vitality. Plus, you get a groundbreaking book. It's called The Complete Guide to Prostate Health, and a newsletter, $100 value free as a gift. Guaranteed to work now or your money back, and if you're not completely satisfied, return it for a full refund. Keep the 2 bottles, the Libido, the book, the newsletter, free as a gift. Not available in stores, so call now, 1-800-603-7277. That's 1-800-603-7277. 1-800-603-7277.
You've reached the Rogers. Leave a message at the beep. Mom, Dad, I keep leaving messages. Hey, I really need that money for tuition. I know you're home. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone.
At Next Student, you can take advantage of record low interest rates through a variety of parent loan programs, which you qualify for regardless of income or assets. For the most affordable ways to pay for your child's college education, call 1-800-978-NEXT or go online at nextstudent.com. Next Student, college funding made simple.
Research shows that kids whose parents regularly talk to them about not smoking are less likely to smoke. The Parent Resource Center at philipmorrisusa.com offers advice from experts on talking to kids about not smoking, including downloadable brochures on starting the conversation and helping kids handle peer pressure. For more, visit philipmorrisusa.com or call 1-877-PM-USA-WEB for a free brochure.
Welcome back to Coast. I'm George Noory with Richard C. Hoagland live at the Coral Castle in Florida. Richard, that structure is about what, 10 acres large?
It's about 10 acres, something like that, and it's 3 stories on the turret that I'm standing in front of now. The huge blocks that make up the walls are about 6.5, 7 feet tall, and they encompass the whole thing. It really is a castle. And what's weird is this afternoon the waveforms as we approached the Venus transit actually looked like the stepped square waveforms of the battlements on the walls of an old medieval castle. I mean, it was bizarre. You don't get square waves in nature, and there's nothing here. There's no electronic equipment that can possibly be doing this. So we're looking at some kind of step function, almost a quantum level change in the physics of space, the ether, the hyperdimensional transfer. In other words, everything I've been talking about all these years seems to be borne out by the measurements we are getting tonight.
You know, Richard, there's a picture of Edward Leeds Scullman with a huge tripod and a chain that apparently he may have used to position these huge stones. But I don't think, and some people have made the mistake of thinking he used this tripod to literally move these stones all over the place. I don't think that's possible.
No one guy could have, with any known mechanics and engineering, have moved delicately without crushing himself under a 30-ton stone. You know, one slip and something that half the size of a locomotive lands on you, and you're a little damp spot on this coil down here. What I think is, if you look carefully at the photos, you'll see at the top of the tripod there was a box.
Yes.
And there was a lead wire that ran down from the box to the stone. I think what he was doing had something to do with nullifying the inertia by vibrating the ether, utilizing the connection that this place gives to the larger hyperdimensional frame of the spinning Earth. And that what we're doing tonight is actually measuring for the first time those nullified inertial effects on the rate of the tuning fork. And one of the things I want to say is that when we get a kind of a handle on this data, when we figure out what we've got, I'm going to be going to Roswell in about a month to the Ancient of Days conference. If you go to the Enterprise Mission website tonight, you'll see a banner at the top. It says Hyperdimensional Experiment Coral Castle. It says Ancient of Days Conference. You click on that, it takes you to their registration page. We're going to be doing both a lecture and a workshop going from our work on Mars and the hyperdimensional physics decoded at Cydonia all the way through to the results, because within a month we'll have a handle on what we've got. You know, we're right in the middle of this now, and I can't really give you definitive results, but in a month we should know a lot more than we know tonight. And so if anybody wants to show up down at Roswell on the weekend of the 2nd of July through the 5th, which is a Monday, we'll do the lecture on Saturday, we'll do the workshop on Monday. I would invite you all to come to Roswell, because by that time we will have figured out a lot of what tonight is just extraordinary data that should not be present in these graphs by any Newtonian mechanics, any quantum mechanics, any relativity, any physics who's ever been taught should not be doing what we're recording tonight here at Coral Castle.
Are you going to attempt to duplicate the experiments of Leeds Scullman in time in the future? Are you up to something?
Well, am I up to something, George? Am I not always up to something? What a leading question.
Yes,
gosh.
it was.
I'm standing here a couple feet away from Ross Patrick, and I've been a kindred soul because he's an experimentalist. He's really a good hands-on engineer. He kind of reminds me of a young Leeds Scullman himself. He lives here. In fact, he was born here, and he has been of inestimable value in helping to set this whole thing up and giving me little pointers and all that. What he's going to do is to duplicate the equipment that we have brought here, and he will be conducting long-term measurements over days and weeks and months as the seasons progress, as conjunctions, as the moon passes overhead, as it passes the sun, as birds fly south. I mean, you name it, he's going to be able to record it, and we will have an unprecedented database in about a year. And there are some unusual things measured celestially inside this monument. In fact, with that as a cue, let me just kind of take you on this walking tour. I'm walking around the southwestern edge of the castle. As I look back over this wall now, I'm on the western side, I can see the quarter moon is rising in the southeast behind me, shining through the palms. And I'm approaching now the front gate. The front gate of this place is on the western side. and it says entrance, and then on the side it says you will see unusual accomplishments inside, signed Ed. Then you pass through an iron door. You can hear the iron door, right?
I can hear you. That's right.
And then you're inside this medieval castle with this wall all around, and where there would be an interior keep, there are stones placed in certain positions. There's topiary. And I was talking earlier tonight to a gorgeous young gal who is the chief gardener, and I said to her, you know, I'll bet the plants in there grow differently than other places. She says, oh, yes. So we are videoing this. Lori Hakala is here tonight, and we're putting all this on videotape. And what we're going to do is to talk to her and some other of the staff about the specifics that they have noted over the years of the unusual anomalies that attend this place, affecting not only the physics, not only the mechanics of lifting the stones, but the biology. Because to me, you know, this is connected to what makes life possible. In the hyperdimensional model, this physics is basically part of why we are alive, why the Earth is covered with extraordinary living things, why there's all kinds of fauna and flora, why certain species appear, George, dramatically in the fossil record and then disappear. In other words, we may have stumbled upon the secrets of evolution, creation, extinction, all as part of this underlying matrix, the fabric of the boundary between dimensions that creates the reality of three-dimensional existence. That's what's at stake here.
How could a person like Skellman be the only person to be able to do what the Egyptians possibly had done thousands of years before? Of all the people on the planet, how come?
I don't think he was. I am strongly suspecting that the whole story about Agnes and all that, Sweet 16, and him being heartbroken and coming down here to kind of build something to woo her back, to, you know, impress her and all that, I think that's a wondrous, gorgeous cover story. And the reason is that I think that, in fact, he built this as a time capsule of critical ancient information to be used and utilized by the generations that would live building up to 2012, George, to figure it out so we can avert, as I said to Art the other night, some of the things that may be coming around the year 2012. I think this is a message left literally in coral of this ancient physics, and he, as part of some kind of secret tradition, was not by his lonesome. I mean, look at what Leeds Skellman was. In order to do all this, you have to be a stonemason, right?
Yeah.
A mason.
Yeah.
Duh. In other words, put those dots together.
I have a roundtable discussion on Thursday. I'll bring that up.
I think that's extraordinary. I mean, looking over my left shoulder here, I'm looking at a telescope where you stand in a certain place and you literally look over the apex of a pyramid, and you look up through this tall obelisk with a hole with the crosshairs made of wire, and you are sighting literally from the top of the apex onto the pole star Polaris. There are other alignments in this place to get this. Orion, the belt stars of Orion. There are all kinds of homages to Isis, both in the form of her hieroglyphic symbol, the chair, the throne, as well as her incarnation as Hathor. I'm standing in front, actually I'm now standing on the so-called center power point, the center of the vortex, the most powerful point in the castle, and I'm standing right in front of a fountain which has 16 waveforms around its periphery, looking like the waves we're seeing on the Accutron sensor tonight. And in the middle of this pool, George, there is a inscribed double tetrahedron.
I mean, the coincidences, you know what I feel about that, are just astonishing. Tell me about some of the similarities that you're beginning to feel and sense between what's going on at Coral Castle and maybe some of the things at Sidonia, for example. You see anything there?
The Sidonians, or whoever built Sidonia, obviously was encoding important critical information about reality, this physics, in their architecture. What Leeds Skellman did here, again, one guy, 90 pounds, 5 foot, if he was, you know, an inch, is do the same thing. He left important critical clues to decode how he did this and what it means to all of us. I mean, if you go to the Enterprise website tonight, you will see a couple of boxes down on the main page below the Roswell Ancient of Days conference discussion. You will see a link called Interplanetary Day After Tomorrow, which is basically a move-off Art and Whitney's movie, which, by the way, we were in New York at the premiere, and it was a phenomenal experience to be there and see Art and Whitney and see them enjoying themselves on the screen.
I'm glad you had a chance to get there.
That film is an extraordinarily important cautionary tale, because we're seeing changes all over the solar system that can only be explained by adaptation of this basic same physics. The weather is changing, and we have mainstream data from NASA, from NSF, from ESA, from all mainstream science institutions, which we've compiled now in a 4-part report, which everyone should read. And the bottom line is that I'm here tonight measuring this physics to prove, A, it's real, and B, it's going to bite us in a very delicate part of our exterior, anterior, unless we get a handle on it, unless we figure it out and then apply a technology to basically ameliorate the effects that are coming, that are only going to get worse.
Are there other scientists down there, Richard, or are you out there with just a few people that
No. I'm here with Robin Falkhoff is here, of course. You know,
right.
I wouldn't be anywhere else but right here, because this is where I was 5 years ago after the heart attack. And she found, by the way, on the other side, on the eastern side, this extraordinary second double tetrahedron above Ed's bathtub, which tells us that you know, this was what he was trying to say. This is how he did it. And our friend Robin Wilcox is here. And then she has a friend, a physicist friend named Gaston, who I never met. I'd heard about him, but I'd never met him. And we've had some wondrous discussions tonight, and he agrees with me that, in fact, we're not looking at electromagnetic effects. We're not looking at magnetic this or magnetic that. We're looking at what's behind electromagnetism. We're looking at that upper transition that modulates, that forms the electromagnetic and gravitational interactions that we're all familiar with. So we're looking at the fundamental building blocks of the universe, and I say that with the obvious metaphor that I'm standing in the middle of this stunning tour de force of building blocks. It's like Ed is, you know, we kind of sell him around here all day today, because it's like it's somewhere he's saying, well, you finally got to where the rubber meets the road, and you figured out some of what I was trying to say.
He'd probably say, Richard, you're getting closer. You're getting closer. As you walk around Coral Castle, he's probably saying it's getting warmer and warmer as you're getting close to that. Is it eerie, Richard, out there?
It is very eerie. As I said, the moon is rising, and of course the moon modulates this physics. That's one of the reasons why, you know, as it moves around in conjunction with other celestial bodies, I believe these numbers change. This inertial property of matter changes, and we're now able to measure this. And if there's no one here except us chillins, you know, the tourists are all gone. There is this haunting light. There are lights. There are lamps that have been placed strategically around. There's uplighting on some of the walls. It is a very humid Florida night. I can only see a couple bright stars. I see Saturn up there. I see, as I said, the moon rising. It is otherworldly, George. It is definitely the proper place to carry out experiments to prove one more step as to who we are and what we're doing in this universe.
Well, I'll tell you what, Richard, in just several more hours, too, the transit, of course, will start being noticed by those of us here in North America. And as you warned, don't look at this with the naked eye, huh?
Nope. Watch it on CNN, watch it on the Internet. Do not burn out your eyes, and then go to Enterprise and look at what we're measuring, which no one has ever measured before in terms of an effect of this kind of celestial conjunction. And I believe it's telling us something profoundly important, and as I said, in the days and weeks to come, we'll put the data together. We'll be in Roswell on the weekend of the 2nd through the 5th of July. And I have one other experiment, George, that I'll talk to you off the air about that I'd like to do while we're still here.
All right.
So in the next couple of days, my friend, you and I will talk, and if you like my idea, then we might surprise some folks.
Excellent. And you are, though, seeing some strange anomalies with the readings you're getting right now?
Wondrously strange.
I wonder what it all means. Richard, the website, of course, enterprisemission.com. He is out there wandering around Coral Castle. The cell phone held up, Richard.
Well, it's nice. Actually, everything holds up in this place. The energy is so marvelous. And before we leave tonight, I want to give a special thanks to my folks, my web folks at VA Graphics, who have really turned themselves inside out to work on the Enterprise Interplanetary Series and have got all that data up there with all the graphs and the footnotes, and work tonight to put the graphs up so people can see kind of a sampling and a surprise hint of what's to come. And I want to thank everyone out there in the country. I want you to all send us some positive energy, and stay tuned.
You got it. Richard C., be safe out there. Enjoy yourself. Say hi to Robin for me, would you?
Wish you were here, George, and I sure will.
Well, we will do that. One day I will go on one of these little experiments with you, indeed. And don't forget, if you're going to be out there in the Roswell area around the 4th of July, as Richard was saying, which you can see on his website, enterprisemission.com, great opportunity to go out there and meet Mr. Hoagland in person, where he will hopefully have some more of these results from this experiment down there at Coral Castle. I got to tell you, I've seen it on In Search of. I've done interviews about Edward Leeds Skolman, and I got to tell you, of all the stories we've talked about here on Coast to Coast, this is one of them that just makes you shake your head going, how did this frail man do this? Move these huge tons of stones. How did he do it? And let me tell you something. It is done in a way that is extremely supernatural. I'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.
Miss part of the show? Listen online with Streamlink. Log on to coasttocoastam.com.
And you don't know why, then you haven't been listening to Time Saver Traffic on 1110 KFAB. Long gone are the days of traffic airplanes flying at 2,500.